It's good to be here on the MU campus in Columbia for our first regular board meeting of the 2016 year as we begin a new year and continue the work we have in front of us to move our great university forward. As I said in our last regularly scheduled meeting of the board in December, I'm honored to serve as board chair for the next year, and as I touched upon during my first report as board chair earlier this year, my theme for the year as chair is a culture of respect. During this year, obviously, our primary focus is going to be on the selection of the new president for the university system. And while we're engaged in that effort, we'll be encouraging all 4 campuses and the system to focus on creating a culture of respect for all of our students and faculty and staff by learning and recognizing that people come from different backgrounds and have different experiences. College should be about learning that everyone's not like you. We want to keep that learning experience positive and respectful. Now we'll take your questions.
First question is, will you all stay here until all of our questions are answered?
Probably not.
Well, that's honest anyway.
I promised the board we'd be out of here by midnight.
And former President Tim Wolf's recent letter that became public, he talked about calling on people to help him get a better severance package, a better departure package. Where does things stand with that? You said negotiations are broken off.
I think that's a fair statement.
Can he expect any compensation severance from the University of Missouri at this point?
At this point, negotiations have broken off.
Was the board seeking a gag order from him where he would talk about his experiences as president of the University of Missouri as part of those negotiations?
Well, no, I wouldn't characterize it that way. We did want to agree on how each of us would characterize the separation going forward.
Have you agreed at all?
No.
So what does this experience lend to your search for a new president in terms of some question whether or not you should have someone with a PhD without an academic background? Has the move toward a business approach been detrimental?
We don't think it's been detrimental, and the board doesn't have, we are not going to search either for an academic or a business person. We want to see who the best available person to lead this university will be.
And what, I know you're going to be talking about what you're looking for here as you go around the state, but in general, is an academic person present a different style of leadership from what you saw from Mr. Wolf or Mr. Dorsey before?
One of the things that it's important to keep in mind that the chancellors oversee the campuses and the president oversees the business enterprise that is the entire University of Missouri. And certainly a business person brings in a view of combining resources that might not be as obvious to an academic. We think that President Wolf did remarkable things in consolidating and bringing efficiency and effective resource use to the university, and that's something we'll continue to look for, not to say we couldn't find it in an academic person.
Would you like to respond to that also during this post?
Well, I really can't respond on much about the search process because I'm not involved in that. On the question whether academics or business people make better presidents, I think it's probably an individual matter, the talents and approaches that the individual brings to the table.
Would you care to respond to the criticism Mr. Wolf directed at you as not being able to stop the eruption of protests on campus?
No.
Mike, there did say you failed miserably in your previous position.
Rudy.
Necessary to respond to him on that?
What about no? Do you not understand?
President Middleton, you were, and you spoke about this a little bit earlier, you were in front of the House committee earlier this week, talking about the possible negative impacts of budget cuts left that room, were you optimistic? Do you think your words fell on deaf ears, or do you think that maybe they took some of those words to heart?
I hope they took some of those words to heart. This is a very serious situation, and significant budget cuts at this point in time would do very, very serious damage to the University of Missouri system and all of its campuses. I hope they heard me. I understand their position. I understand their anger. I understand their frustration. I understand their embarrassment on behalf of their constituents in the state of Missouri over the public nature of the exposure of some of the problems that we've experienced in the last several months. I don't understand damaging the university as a result. And that's the message I was trying to convey.
Mike, during your address, something caught my attention. You're talking about there are critics out there saying that the inmates running the asylum, there are animals running the zoo. Could you kind of explain your message on that so I can better understand?
I think my message is that the vitriolic rhetoric that we are hearing nationwide is not productive. It polarizes us. It detracts us from speaking honestly about the real issues and working together to find real solutions. I find it insulting to call our students animals or inmates. I find it insulting to call our university an asylum or a zoo. And I know that no one really means literally what they say when they use those terms. I would humbly request that they not use those terms.
Explain for the general public who sees the appointments of diversity and equity officers perhaps as unnecessary, that they don't see that in their own companies. Is that something that is going to make a significant difference, do you think, for students, or is that going to hurt your dealings with the legislature that may think this is a waste of money?
I suppose there's a danger that some may question the wisdom of spending resources on those kinds of positions and those kinds of programs. But I would suggest to you and them that not investing in improving the climate and culture on American campuses and in American society is a dangerous oversight. Our culture is changing, our country is changing, our institutions are changing very, very rapidly. And if we don't take action now, serious action, to manage the diversity that we inevitably will be dealing with in the future, it's going to cost us a lot more in the future.
Do either of you have an idea what you would like to spend on acquiring more faculty members of different backgrounds?
I would rather not speculate. We are putting together task forces. We are evaluating our needs. To do it right, the cost will be more than I think we can afford to invest. But I think over time, if we make a significant investment now and do this work seriously, we'll move the ball forward. And that is probably all we can do on an issue as big as truly diversifying our faculty.
Dan, I have two more.
Our curators are down 3 members, and the Senate President Pro Tem said he does not want to confirm any additional members for the Board of Curators until a new governor is coming into office. Will that impair the the search for a new president, and do you have any response to what Senator Richards said?
Well, it certainly won't impair us going forward. I've been asked about having lost our two African American members, and certainly we would have valued their opinions very greatly, not only because of their ethnicity, but also because of their background and experience, which is different from those of us that remain on the board. But we will go forward. We are adding additional members from the public, students, faculty, and staff members to help us find the next president for the University of Missouri, and we will proceed.
And do you have any response to Senator Richards saying not going to confirm anybody?
That's his decision to make, not mine.
And President Middleton, when you say that a cut by the General Assembly would have devastating or catastrophic effects, are you talking about cutting below the appropriation level y'all are receiving this year, or are you talking about not getting a full share of the increase that has been proposed by the governor?
Both would hurt. Obviously, the bigger cut would hurt more.
What would be the impact of not receiving the increase that the governor has proposed?
It's really hard to detail in this press conference specifically the impact. We would have to do something to decrease the cost of operation to match the revenue that we receive. And I don't make those decisions in a vacuum. I have a vice president for finance. I have 4 chancellors, each of which has budget people. There's a process that we would have to go through to determine the least destructive way to accommodate a significant decrease in revenue. And that's about all I can say at this point.
And Ms. Henderson, in terms of what Mr. Wolf wrote in his letter about curators calling subordinate staff at the university trying to pursue personal agendas. Did you see any of that? Have you seen any of that? Have you engaged in any of that yourself?
No.
And is that a proper activity for members of the Board of Curators to be calling staff below the president level as the university?
Well, we had students encouraging us to spend more time on campus and finding out what's going on everywhere. So I think there's a diversity of opinion on that point. I don't know that it's a problem.
In regard to the students, much of the morning was talking, you and the students were discussing diversity. Can either one of you just give me a few thoughts on what you were thinking when you were listening to those students talk about diversity on campus?
Well, obviously it's very important to them, and it's something we need to pay close attention to.
Now, I just wanted to ask you about yesterday's interruption too. Is that unusual for the curators just to stop what they're doing to allow something like this to happen?
That's the only time that's happened since I've been on the board.
And why did it happen that way then? Why was it allowed?
Well, we thought it important to hear what they had to say. The students are obviously passionate about this issue, and there's no reason for us to be antagonistic toward them. They were just trying to communicate with us.
And do you think they did it properly?
Had they asked me in advance, that would not have been what I recommended, no.
One of your curators today, Mr. Steelman, talked about the process perhaps getting in the way at times of reaching a new goal. How bogged down is higher ed, do you think, in the process of, and obviously we're dealing with a big institution here with 4 campuses and 4 campuses.
Well, higher education, first of all, it's a big bureaucracy, and higher education is probably a little more bogged down, in your words. And shared governance is part of the reason, because in higher education, there is a sentiment that everyone needs to participate in the decision-making, and when you got a lot of people, it takes a long time.
Do you have any sense as to how quickly you may move forward on some of these issues with the students listed again yesterday?
Some of these issues are already moving forward. Next week, we're going to be interviewing the candidates for the Chief Diversity Officer. The president set aside nearly $1 million in funding for some of these initiatives. We've already got the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force in place and moving forward. So we're moving. We have 4 diversity, equity, and inclusion officers now, 1 on each campus. So steps are being taken every day.
If the university is looking like it's going to have some significant cuts or get a much diminished portion of the increase that the governor has proposed, will the board revisit its decision on tuition and perhaps increase tuition for the coming school year?
Well, we have no plans to do that.
I was wondering about your opinion. Should the board revisit it if you all have a pretty significant cut or don't get the full share of the money that was supposed to keep you from having tuition?
Well, obviously, as the president said, there's a lot of people that shared governance. There's a lot of people that need to weigh in on that decision, and we don't know what the General Assembly is going to do.
What's your concern about any change in enrollment, drop in enrollment because of what's been going on?
Well, we've been anticipating a drop in enrollment due to reduced numbers of Missouri high school graduates. That's a demographic we've been watching for some time. We do have some reduction in enrollment. It's still early, hard to know how that's going to play out by the end of the year.
Do you have any statistics? I mean, if you lose 1,000 new freshmen, what impact that has on the budget?
I have not seen an analysis at that level of detail.
Nor have I.
Is it fair to say that the board is concerned that maybe the events of last semester might cause a drop in enrollment? I mean, is that on the mind of any of the curators?
Well, it's certainly something we're watching and paying attention to.
Sure, by the phone?
Hello, hello?
No phone? Okay, let's have one more. We're done.
Anything else that you'd like to say, sir, about particularly the student panel this morning?
I very much appreciated both student panels. Did you see the students at the breakfast this morning? We had a student panel at breakfast as well. They're very, very impressive young people. The students who spoke about respect. I'm very proud of our students and their commitment to improving this institution, and I appreciate their being here.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.